All right, welcome into the Keep Prowling podcast. I'm your host, DJ Beal, and I'm back once again. Lonely today, Mr. Lonely today, okay? But that's okay, because we're about to talk about these Panthers, and I tell you what, I guess for good reason, right? I guess for good reason. I am Mr. Lonely today for good reason. 0-4 and 0-4 start. I've talked to a couple people around the office today, and the optimism is just way down. But I'm gonna bring y'all back up, okay? I'm gonna bring y'all back up because that's what I do. I'm an optimist, okay? I don't know about y'all, but I try my best to see the positives in everything. And let's just look back, and then we can look forward, and we can see exactly what these Panthers might possibly be able to do. Let's start with this 21-13 loss against the Minnesota Vikings last week on Sunday. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest. Let's start. Here we go again, right? Starting with the positives. Okay, the defense is everything you need them to be right now. They're turning people over. They're putting this offense in a position to be successful. The defense, I mean, they're playing lights out right now. They're playing lights out right now. In this game particularly, it was Jeremy Chin who led the team in tackles. Von Bell had a good game. I mean, you had turnovers by Sam Franklin. He did, this defense is everywhere. They're flying around. I think there was one more. Yeah, there was one more pick by Kamu Grugier-Hill. Easy for me to say. I don't know about y'all, but it's easy for me to say. Okay, but The thing about the Panthers right now, I think that's a positive, is this defense. And I think that was to be expected. You got a young QB. You got a young squad coming in to this early season. You got back-to-back divisional games, and then you got a couple of games that's just tough games that you got to deal with in week 3 and week 4, right? And the divisional games, those were the ones, right? The divisional games was the ones you really wanted to get 1 or 2 under your belt early in the season, but now you're looking at 0-4 to start the season. And I think defensively throughout every single game, it's felt like the defense has been the one keeping the Carolina Panthers in these games. But on the other hand, on the other aspect of things, the offense, right? The offense has been, for lack of a better term, a beacon of inconsistency for this team. There's been a lack of shots downfield. There's been a lack of running game to supplement this rookie QB that you have. There's been a lack of protection. There's been mistakes by said rookie QB in Bryce Young as well. And everybody's feeling the pressure of starting 0-4. The Vikings had a chance to start 0-4, but of course you went head-to-head, so somebody got to come out with the win. And the Vikings, I tell you what, they are some of the most talented overachievers. They are some of the most talented underachievers that you're going to find in the NFL today. That's the Minnesota Vikings in a nutshell, because, I mean, every single year they underachieve, but, more so this year they underachieve even more to be as talented as they are. But that's not even the point. But when it comes to the Panthers, I think we've seen improvements game by game, right? I think we've seen improvements game by game. Why do I say that? Why? God, I get it. Panthers Nation, like, we 0-4, throw in the towel, season's over, number 1 pick, bench Bryce Young, put in Andy Dalton, we might win a couple games, the running game is the offensive line is, I get it. We want to panic, because that's what we do, all right? That's what we do as people, that's what we do as fans, that's what we do as analysts, whatever, whoever we are. We gonna panic because it's 0-4, right? It's 0-4. But when you look at the division, right, Tampa Bay is leading the way with that 3-1. I think everybody else is 1-1 within the division, and that's the most important thing to kind of keep yourself afloat. Yes, you got a couple games coming up very, very soon that you have to win if you are the Carolina Panthers. But you got a little stretch coming up here soon that's gonna be really good. But let's jump back real quick to this Vikings game. I feel like Bryce Young, he looked sharp in this game. Bryce Young, he was standing in the pocket. He was bouncing around a little bit, looking around, going through his reads, and he was making good throws. The turnover they had in the third quarter, I think, kind of shifted the game. And that's the thing about it, too. It's not just the turnovers for the offense, but it's the turnovers and when they happen. Their time on the clock. That's when it happens, right? That's when it happens. Is when it happens that's been killing the Panthers all season long. They're in the game, and they turn it over. Or they're in the game, and the defense, who's been playing well all night, gives up a big play, and then boom, game done, right? So that's kind of how it's been. The Panthers have been in every single game this year. There ain't been a game that's been like, oh my goodness, the Panthers just weren't in that game. The Panthers been in the game. They just ain't been able to finish. They started this game up 10-0. You think they're going to run away with it? They're going to, keep the pedal to the metal on this one, but they didn't. They didn't. They didn't, and I think some of that has to do with you can't run 4-minute offense in the first half, but some of that has to do with the fact of this lack of running game too. The Panthers can't just control the clock and win games, right? That's not the Panthers style right now. They're not getting enough out of Miles Sanders. They're not getting enough out of Chuba Hubbard, right, to extend these drives and kind of ground and pound their way to a couple of wins. Because every so often with young teams, that's kind of what you get. You get the time possession and ball control. That's going to be the thing that's going to make you successful in this league, and especially early. We're talking about with young teams. We're talking about with young offenses. We're talking about excellent defensive play, which you've gotten, and controlling the ball on the other end. I've talked about it a couple times with a couple of my guests on the show, just talking about how the Panthers kind of got to win by hook or by crook at this point, right? They got to steal a couple games. They got the Dolphins coming up. They got the Lions coming up. They're going to have to steal a couple games by just simply making those teams uncomfortable, defensively making them uncomfortable, and offensively doing what you got to do. But in this game against the Vikings, Bryce Young was 25 for 32 for 204 yards. I think he looked good. I think he looked sharp. When you watch him play, he's going through his reads. He seems comfortable. He's moving around when he has to. Some of the pocket presence he's still trying to figure out in terms of like how fast NFL guys really are. Adam Thielen had himself a game against his old team, 7 receptions for 76 yards, 10 yards per catch. Terrace Marshall had a pretty good game considering, he hasn't really been doing too much. I wonder. I don't know the injury report right off the top of my head, but I wonder if Jonathan Mingo was injured in this game because he obviously wasn't on the stat sheet. Terrace Marshall was, who has kind of proven to be he can showcase a little bit of a deep threat a little bit too. So that might be something to look at for later on down the season because I think this offense is getting better. I think that's the bright side, right? That's the bright side of all this. Is this offense is getting better. They are. It's a slow burn, but they're getting better. I know a lot of people want to give up on the season, but it's kind of like that other team in Chicago right now, right? Like, they're struggling too, and they probably got all the talent in the world. They got, veteran leadership out there, and it's just not coming together. And, I told one of my Bears friends, I said, hey, y'all probably 1 or 2 years away before y'all really going to get right. And the Panthers are probably in the same boat. You got a rookie QB. You got new weapons all over the place. You trying to find your offensive identity on top of that. That stuff takes time. That stuff don't happen overnight. And I know a lot of people hate to hear that. They want they want that instant gratification. I don't blame you, right? I don't blame you. I want the instant gratification too. But you got to be patient, especially with a rookie QB. Don't give up on him too soon. He feels just as frustrated. I mean, one of my coworkers told me today that after the game, Bryce Young, you see it on Twitter and everything too. Like, he's feeling dejected. He's feeling frustrated. This is a guy who's been successful at every level of football he's been in, and sometimes that's a struggle because we act like Trevor Lawrence became the Trevor Lawrence of the NFL right now overnight. He didn't, right? There are quarterbacks that come in and they quickly do it. I get it. C.J. Stroud looking good over there in Houston, okay? I get it. You know what I mean? C.J. Stroud looking good over there in Houston, but that's a whole different situation than we got in Carolina right now. It's a whole different situation. You have the Carolina Panthers that weren't technically the worst team in the league is why they were the number 1 overall pick. They traded for the number 1 overall pick. But with that being said, to be in a position or to feel like you need the number 1 overall pick, there has to be some deficiency in the team. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now is we're seeing those deficiencies on full display. But I think even in the Vikings game, you felt like things got a little bit better. Bryce Young came back and, it felt like the offense flowed a little bit better. They still only scored 13 points, and that's okay. But, it's going to get there. Some of it's going to have to be about finishing drives. Some of it's going to have to be about settling for 3, because they had chances late in the game, too, to possibly get back in the game, have some opportunities to get back in the game, but they simply just couldn't do it. There wasn't enough time on the clock. There wasn't enough, room for them to do such a thing. But that's real quick. I'm gonna read off some stats real quick that I saw. It just had me interested. I was just a little bit interested, and I'm sure you guys are too. Passing wise, the Panthers are averaging 5.4 yards per play, which is interesting. I think because you want to see that go up. The passing game has revolutionized the NFL because you can, in a quick second, it's a quick strike, it's over, right? And that's exactly what you want to see. And in the rushing game, 4 yards per play, right? Which I think rushing wise, 4 yards per play sounds pretty good because that's putting yourself in 3rd and 2s. That's putting yourself in these situations where you can make some things shake. But I think because of the amount of times that you rush the ball, you would love to see that average go up. So I think as Miles Sanders continues to get healthy and get himself right and get himself back into football shape, I think we'll see a better offensive output. Now, that might just be me being optimistic, but I think we'll see a little bit more as the Panthers start to take chances, too. It felt like, even in this game, the Panthers took 1 or 2 more chances that they hadn't taken in previous games. But, another loss to the Vikings, which I think was a winnable game, right? You had your opportunities, you just didn't take them. And I think when you look at it, honestly, if you look at the Panthers schedule, of course they started the year with Atlanta, who I think came out like they were shot out of a cannon or something. I mean, nobody expected Atlanta to beat Carolina 24-10. I mean, I think we expected 24-17 maybe or something like that, right? 24-21, something like that. Even a little more defensive. Like a 13-10 or something, right? I think that's what we expected a little bit more, but we didn't get that. So, that's the other thing too. Like, Atlanta came out like a team that nobody recognized. New Orleans, another one where you was right there. Your chance to win that game was right there in front of you, and you just couldn't take it. And it was like, we talked about it before. It was they ran out of time at the end, and it was one big play here, one big play there, and those were one of those 2 games you needed. Early in the season, you kind of needed one of those 2 games. But then, Seattle's tough. Seattle's probably the toughest one out of this 4-game stretch to start the season, and Seattle showed that. But I think the Panthers still competed in that game. With Andy Dalton, there was no Bryce Young. He was dealing with the ankle injury. So I think to see Seattle and to see that you can compete with Seattle, I think that should give you a little bit of positive feelings going in to this 5-game stretch that we're gonna talk about here in 1 second. And then Minnesota. I think the Panthers missed one with Minnesota. I think you looking at one. I think honestly, if you looking at 1-3 over 0-4, it's a little more optimism for the Panthers. If you looking at that as opposed to looking at 0-4 right now, I really do. But then this next 5-game stretch is gonna be. It's gonna be tough, especially the first 2. It's the first 2 I think that get you, because it's possible. There's a possibility that the Panthers start this season 0-6, because Detroit. I've been trying to act like they fool's gold all year, but they've been tricking me all darn season long, and because of that. Detroit's a tough game. Detroit's a tough one. I think if you're the Panthers, if you want to especially keep pace with the NFC, I think Detroit is a really important game. I think you'd like to see them beat Miami, but I think Detroit being in the NFC as well, being a competitor as they are, I think you got to steal the Detroit game, and see what you can do against Miami. If you can, because I think a lot of people would be okay with the Panthers losing to Miami as long as they compete against Miami, right? And we've seen Miami against a good defense. I think there's reason to think like. Maybe, there might be a chance. There might be a chance that they could beat Miami. Miami's a tough one. I'm just going to be honest. Miami's a tough one. And then you got Houston, Indy, Chicago. Houston and Indy, you got your rookie quarterback battles going on in those two. You got C.J. Stroud who's looked amazing, and you got Anthony Richardson who's also looked really good. Who looks like he's not gonna let his team lose games. Albeit they've lost some this season, but still, like. The biggest thing about these guys is you've seen them compete in every game. You've seen them willing their teams to wins, and that's something that the Panthers have not been able to do. But this is a get right stretch, right? Houston, Indy, Chicago. That's a get right stretch right there for the Panthers. That's a even if you are 0-6, that's a chance to be 3-6, right? That's a chance to be 3-6 and prove some people wrong a little bit, I think, and kind of get yourself at least back into the race. I've heard a lot of people say 8-9 for the Panthers, 9-8 for the Panthers, something like that. You lean, especially if you start 0-6, you lean in towards 8-9 or worse, right? So I think this is a good get right stretch, and they go on a good little run right there. They got Dallas a little bit later, after that. But to focus on those 5 games, I think that's kind of a get right stretch, especially if you can win 4 out of those 5. We'll see. 4 out of 5 is tough, but I think there's 3 out of 5 you can win, and there's 3 out of 5. There's 3 of those games you can win in a row. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what they do. But coming up against Detroit, how can the Panthers win this game? I think they're gonna have to keep doing what they do, and that's play good defense, and they're gonna have to continue to be efficient on offense. I think without a turnover or 2 from the Panthers offense, I think they probably sneak away with one of these games early on in the season anyway. But because of the turnovers, that's been kind of the biggest key that's been losing them games, has been turnovers. So I think against Detroit, I want to see the Panthers play. If they lose and they do what I say right now, then they just got beat by a better team. But if they play clean football and the defense plays well, gets a turnover or 2, and especially if they can find a way to capitalize on these defensive turnovers, that's the biggest thing. The takeaways, you got to go off with them. You might even need a pick 6 or 2 from your defense in this stretch of games, because the defense gonna have to keep you in it as the offense continues to develop, because the offense just is. They're just not ready yet. They're just not there. They're not where they want to be yet, and that's okay. That happens, right? With rookie quarterbacks, with young squads, that's exactly new coaching staffs, new systems. That's what happens. But I think it's too. I think it's too early to throw the towel in right now. I know it looks bleak right now, but it's too early. So I think to beat Detroit, a good defensive clean game is going to get them. And some fireworks on offense wouldn't hurt. Wouldn't hurt. The fireworks wouldn't hurt. Okay, some fireworks on offense wouldn't hurt. But we'll wait. We'll leave that on a wait and see basis. So let's talk about the rest of the week as we go ahead and wrap up. Just give the picks for the rest of the week. You can follow down below and give the rest of the picks as well, whether you're on all the major podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you may be. You can let us know below. If you're on Twitter, Bagel Sports, let me know as well. Wherever you are, let me know. I want to know your picks. I want to know if you got more credibility than I do right now, because we ain't gonna talk about last week. We ain't gonna talk about last week right now. But let's get right up into it. Let's get right up into it. So Thursday Night Football, Chicago at Washington. I think Washington wins this game. I think Chicago, as well as they played last week, because I think for the first time in a long time, we saw Chicago come out and play a really good game of football. They just didn't finish the game because they're Chicago, okay? But that's okay. I think Washington is the better team. Washington probably should have won in overtime against, who was that, the Chargers they played? If I'm not mistaken. They should have won in overtime last week. No, they played the Eagles. I'm tripping. They played the Eagles. They should have won against the Eagles, but I knew they would compete against the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles look at nearly as good as they seem like they did last year, but I think Washington is going to have a good game. I think it should be a good game. If Chicago plays like they played last week, they might win this game, but I'm not going to pick them because I can't trust Chicago right now. I can't do it. Can't do it. You ain't do it. Anyway, Jacksonville at Buffalo. This one's in London. This one's tough. This is a weird thing. Jacksonville has back-to-back London games, which I don't know if that's necessarily fair. But then I wonder, is it more advantageous for Jacksonville to have two back-to-back than it is for Buffalo to have to travel all the way to London, mess their entire week up? I think Jacksonville. I'm gonna use that to Jacksonville's advantage. Jacksonville's gonna win this game simply because having to hang out in London for a little bit longer. That's what I'm going with. That 9:30 game, that early game. So we'll they'll be used to the time zone and everything. Jacksonville gonna win that game. Houston at Atlanta. I think Houston wins this game. I don't think Atlanta's that good. I think Atlanta is fool's gold off of their Week 1 victory. I think they looked better than anybody thought they would. But I think Houston finding their groove. I think Houston is going to compete in that AFC South, and I think I'm not going to say they're going to win it, but the way as inconsistent as Jacksonville looks, and we know Tennessee is I don't think Tennessee is that good, even though they got a big victory yesterday against the Cincinnati Bengals. And yeah, I think Houston is going to compete for this division. I really do, because this division. I mean, it's a battle royale. You might as well throw all four teams in the ring and let them duke it out. Tennessee at Indianapolis. Indy. I'm going Indy. I don't think Tennessee is that good. I don't think Tennessee is good at all, actually. And then, of course, Tennessee that week after goes up against Baltimore in London. So it could be a tough little stretch for them having a divisional game, then having kind of a little mini rivalry they got with Baltimore, too, across the pond. But I think the Colts are good. I think the Colts are really good. Defensively, they're really good. It just depends if that offense can continue to do what they do, and that offense is prone for taking chances, right? They're going to take their chances. They're going to take their lumps, and they're going to make some plays out of it. They're going to turn the ball over sometimes. Things are going to happen, but, they're being aggressive, I think. New York versus Miami. Which New York version is this? I can't tell. The Giants. Oh, no, I ain't have to even look at that. Well, it didn't matter, right? Honestly, it didn't even matter that I looked at that because there's not one New York team that's going to beat Miami this year. I'm just going to be honest with y'all. Miami, I think they took a step back when it comes down to their game against the Bills last week, but that was a good team, a good defense. I don't think New York's going to be able to compete with Miami. It could be a close game, but the way New York has played this year, they ain't even been competing, it feels like. So, yeah, I'm going to go Miami. The New Orleans Saints at the New England Patriots. New England, I thought they was going to show something in that game against the Cowboys last week, but they didn't, okay? They showed that they just as bad as we think they are, and I think New Orleans is good enough to beat New England. I don't think New England's good. I don't think New England's good at all. I think they have a good coach, or they have at least a successful coach right now, but they just don't have the pieces to be able to do anything right now. So yeah, I'm going New Orleans. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, a little rivalry game on that one. Baltimore wins this game. I think it's gonna be tough because it's at Pittsburgh. The terrible tide's gonna be swinging, but I think Baltimore is finding its offensive identity the more and more they play, and I still don't think they found their offensive identity. I think with Pittsburgh, number one, you don't know the Kenny Pickett situation, but at the same time with Pittsburgh, I just don't think they can keep living on their defense to win them games. So I'm going Baltimore in that one. Philadelphia Eagles at the Los Angeles. I think it's the Chargers. It's only showing me one. It's only showing me the city, and they got too many, all these states, and you got multiple teams in one state. But you know how they do. But anyway, they had to get them LA teams. They talked about LA teams for so long, and they had to get them, right. They had to bring in these LA teams. But the Eagles at the Rams. I think the Rams win this game. I think the Rams are a sneaky good team. Puka Nacua is playing out of his mind. I think Cooper Kupp might be back because it's week 5. So you're gonna see a lot of people come back that's been off for a little bit. So I think if you get that combination of Puka Nacua and I'm gonna say Cooper Rush. Wow, Cooper Cup. It's gonna be something, man. I think that offense is gonna find their way again. I think the Rams win this game. Cincinnati at Arizona. Cincinnati, I don't know what's going on with them. I don't know if it's the Joe Burrow injury. I don't know what it is. I think their defense is not as good as it once was. I think Arizona is going to compete in this game, and they're going to find a way to win. Because they competed against San Francisco. They just couldn't stop them. And T. Higgins, he got a little injury too. You seen the frustration brewing in Cincinnati with the slow start. So, yeah, I think Arizona wins this game, especially at home. That's a heck of a trip to take if you Cincinnati and if you struggling right now. So let's talk about the Jets at Denver. I think Zach Wilson looked good against the Chiefs once they got going, once they got down in. And I think Denver is just not good. I can't figure out why they're not good. I expected them to be good, but they just not. With that being said, I'm gonna go Denver. I think New York. I can't trust neither New York team right now. I can't trust Denver either. So it's just, you might as well just toss this one up, and whoever falls first gets the win on that one. Like, how you bounce the two bouncy balls, and the one that goes the highest. That's about as lucky as you can get with picking this one. So I don't know. I go Denver. Maybe they'll bounce back for me since I put so much faith in them early in the season. Kansas City at Minnesota. Minnesota is terrible. Kansas City is not. So Kansas City wins this game. And then Sunday Night Football, Dallas at San Francisco. I think this is the time when we're going to see is Dallas for real or is they not. And I think San Francisco is due for a loss. Just because they've been playing well. I don't think they're going to come out flat or anything, but they're due for a loss against a good defense. And I think Dallas is still a good defense, even though, missing Diggs. I think Dallas wins this game. I think considering how impressively they played New England as well, I think Dallas is for real, at least for this portion of the regular season. So I think Dallas wins on Sunday night. And then Monday Night Football is Green Bay at Las Vegas. I think Green Bay wins this game. I don't trust Las Vegas, no matter who's playing quarterback. And with Green Bay, I just think they're well coached, and I think they're going to get the job done. So Green Bay wins this game. But be sure to let me know what you picked below, whether it's your favorite team, whether you want to pick everybody. Let me know in the comments, in the question, whatever, however you got to do it on Twitter, whatever you got to do. Let me know what your picks are below, because I want to hear from you as well. As always, the Keep Prowling podcast is on all major podcasting platforms, also streaming on YouTube and on BayHackleSports.com as well. Everywhere you want the Keep Prowling podcast, the Keep Prowling podcast is there. We'll see you guys on the next episode. I might have to bring somebody by. Okay, 0-4. We had to have a little bit of a cry fest for 0-4, and that's okay. But nonetheless, we're gonna have somebody back next week to kind of bounce back and forth about these Panthers and what they could do. They could either be looking at 0-5, or they might be looking at a surprising 1-4. But we'll see. Definitely hope you guys enjoyed. This has been the Keep Prowling podcast. If you like this video, maybe check out some of our other shows, the Delano Little Show and also the 704 High School Highlight. Links are to the side.